This is a 1930 Underwood 5 typewriter. It's one of the very last. This is one of the very last of the classic number 5 Underwood designs. After this model, I think in 1933, the number 6 was introduced, which was a more bulkier, stronger machine, but not as physically appealing as these machines. You can already tell they're starting to make some changes to the mechanical designs of this number 5, as it is quite a late model. I'll go over those features that already were present on this machine, but were fully integrated into the later Underwood typewriters. One of the changes that the Underwood was undergoing as an introduction to the new model Underwood was the color selector. The typical Underwood number 5 has a two-way switch here at the front and a lever in the back to switch the stencil, while this Underwood number 5 has the newer style color selector, which was also used on the number 6 Underwoods. So this was one of the changes that the typewriter was already undergoing to make the public know that some big changes were going to happen to the Underwood typewriters. The keyboard still remains the same. It has the typical Underwood glass keys, as you can see. Although I do live in Canada, this machine has been manufactured in the US, as it is missing the front decal that would indicate it is a Canadian made machine. And the decal on the back does indeed confirm that. It has the standard escapement mechanism and the newer style tension spool or tension spring, as you can see. It does not have the ratchet system, but instead it has the swivel switch that is operated by this screw, and in order to unlock it you have to turn that screw. I bought this typewriter from a former telegraph operator. He had an apartment in the city, and he had this sitting in a tote out on his balcony on the 5th floor. And as I told him, I met him in a shopping mall, and as I told him I collected typewriters back then, he said, "Oh, I have a few typewriters that you can have for a few dollars." So I went over to his apartment. He had the most amazing collection of clocks. He had over 350 clocks in this tiny apartment. It was a pathway to the kitchen and a pathway to his recliner chair, and that was it. The rest was just covered by boxes of clock parts. There were clocks hanging on the wall. It was quite amazing. I've never seen anything like it. Unfortunately, just 2 months after I purchased the machines, I read his obituary in the newspaper, reading that he had passed away shortly after I met him. So that was quite sad. It gave me a little bit of a sentimental value to this typewriter, as you know, I met this special man with his very special clock collection. The typewriter, you know, he hadn't used it in a while, but it was still nice to know it came from him, because he was quite a special character. The Platen on the typewriter when I got it was really bad. It had cracks all over, and it also had really flat guide spools. It had really had bad support rollers. The ones that are on there now are also a little bit cracked, but they do hold the paper and they're still quite flexible. Although the rollers that I got, these came off, was a parts machine that I had. Actually, it came with the machine. I bought this machine and it came with a spare carriage and a couple of typewriter parts. The carriage was also from a number 5 Underwood, and it still had the Platen and the support rollers on there, although it was missing a few support rollers because it was from an older model, I suppose pre-1923 if I look at the blueprints for these machines correctly. So instead of having 4 support rollers like this one has, the later Underwood, which as I mentioned earlier, like the color selector, had already undergone a few changes to accommodate the number 6, which would be introduced 3 years later. The Platen and the Carriage that came with it only had 3 support rollers on each bar, so it's missing one over here, as you can see, and it's missing another one behind here. It's difficult to show because the battery in the camera is empty right now, and I'm currently running it on charger, so the cable's in the way. The Platen in it now is not great, it has a few cracks as you can see. But as I said, it's still very flexible and it holds paper well, so I'm not too bothered by it right now. The decal on the front was worn off, so I had my father, who is an artist, draw out a new decal by hand. And it looks like the real deal, if you ask me. The very beautiful decals below the spacebar are still pretty good, in good shape compared to other machines that I've had and seen where they completely rubbed off. The rollers and the paper fingers unfortunately are completely rust shut. There was quite a bit of rust on this machine when I got it, as it had spent quite a few years in that tote on the balcony. So unfortunately there was nothing I could do about this, because the spare Platen that it came with did not have its paper fingers anymore. Chrome is in reasonable shape, not perfect. As you can see, there's quite a bit of wear over there. The keys are really clean. Another indication that a transition was happening to the Underwood typewriters are these paper support or paper guides next to the ribbon vibrator. These are the newer style paper guides, as you can see. These were also present on the later Underwoods, the number 6 and the Champion, for example. These were not that common on number 5s. So that's also an indication this is a very late machine. The carriage features pretty much stayed the same up to about the 1950s, so not a lot of change there. It still does have the thick carriage return lever, but that was also installed on the number 6. Here we have a look underneath the typewriter. As you can see, it's really clean. I did spend quite a few hours cleaning this machine, removing the rust and so forth. Unfortunately, the feet were in really bad shape when I got it. And this is a solution that I actually wanted to share because it works really well. It's not original. Oh, it is original. It's not. What I mean is, it doesn't really show any professionalism regarding typewriter renovation, refurbishing or restoration. But it does the trick, and that's just grab a few. Just grab a couple corks, cut about a third of it off. Drill a hole into them about halfway, and then they screw onto the screws that the old rubber feet go onto. And it works a treat because they are the exact same size, and they keep the typewriter in place. As you can see, it works. It's really strong. So a suggestion there for when you come across an Underwood that has its feet missing or damaged, and that's actually quite common, as Underwood rubber doesn't age very well. See, despite the missing support roller or support rollers underneath the Platen, the paper does feed still very well, and it holds in place as well. Whoops. And here is the type sample. And it types very well. All the type is very straight. It could use a new ribbon, although it does still work. So anyway, there you have it. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good day.